Okie dokie. Yeah. So the weather is shitty. Is it going to get better?
I'll be very surprised if it does. We have had basically constant, I think for about what feels like now a 2-week period of unremitting rain every single day. Being very British, we are in fact going to be discussing the weather, and that's been the biggest thing. But today, the weather has got even worse because we've gone from having rain, which is bad enough, to snow. Now the snow is easing off. Now I honestly personally can't complain too much. I'm inside, it's warm. I'm not in the situation this guy was in front of my house this morning, whose Range Rover had broken down for a period of about 4 hours while he was waiting.
Are we talking a brand new Range Rover or like a 20-year-old Range Rover?
Pretty new, which will be a major thing to piss you off if you've got a reasonably new Range Rover and you've had to call out.
One.
Yeah, let's call out.
That's why you bought the damn thing, for the snow.
Yeah, and as soon as the snow lands, it's dead. But is the weather going to get better? I would bloody well hope so. We're getting close. We're not too far off. What is it? April, when it's supposed to be hitting spring. So I'm hoping things will improve somewhat. But it's the problem in England that you always have that I find is, when it comes to weather, we love to talk about it, but the problem you have is it's either too cold, too wet, too hot. So we're not happy.
Do you think the weather is going to get worse as we get older, or is it going to get better? And I don't mean to do with global warming. I mean, Is the weather going to get better or not, just as weather?
That's a good question. Historically, you get peaks and troughs in the weather. So people are always sort of concerned about, well, like we've got now, the time that it's gone really, really cold or wet. They always sort of say it's a terrible thing that's happening now. But the problem you get is that peaks and troughs. So like I think it was the 1800s, you'd have periods where the Thames froze over. So to answer the question, is it going to get better? I can't answer that.
It's peaks and troughs, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if it did. I'd be really, really amazed if the weather got any better. I can envision it getting worse, but both of us are smart enough to stay out of discussing anything that relates to.
So think about go back over time and think, okay, so where are all the bodies of millions of humans that have died over the years? Like, where are they? Like when we build houses, they're not there. So where are they? The answer is they're underwater. And that half the bloody world is filled with water. That was once land, hence why they're finding all these cities underwater. Eventually, this will be equivalent to the city underwater, and it will be flooded. So not that it's going to get better or worse. It's just that the water shifts from one part of the earth to the other. So, Pacific Ocean may dry up in millions of years, and England might be equivalent to the Pacific Ocean. It's just a different part of the earth. So it's not going to get any worse or better. It's just climate changing. It shifts and it changes. Like animals migrate where the sun goes, and we've set up our house on a bit of land because we've got EDF gas providing us energy. So we don't need to migrate to where the sun is because we've got the warmth. But if nature's pushing everything here, water and heat, we're supposed to be going with it, and we're not. So what do we expect? Of course, we're going to get flooded because that's just how it works.
Totally, and the thing is that you were spotting in what you said about the fact that historically, geographically, everything will alter. So the way that, say, the United States looked, millions of years ago is completely different to how it looks now. So you were always going to see an alteration. I think the problem is that you were absolutely spot on what you said then, which is the fact that in the past, people would migrate to get away from issues with regard to weather, or the way they would, people would go across, say, the desert to better themselves. But now people are very much locked into staying in one location, and it's only the sheer sort of pigheadedness of man saying, well, I'm not going to move for this, or I'm not going to change for this, that we're being hit by stuff and not really knowing how to respond to it quick enough. So I'd say you're on the money when you're saying that, like, weather-wise, it will just naturally ebb and flow as it ebbs and flows, and it's not going to be better or worse. We're just going to have to adapt to it.
Yeah,
But whether or not we do.
Every animal, when it becomes too hot, too cold, it rains, it storms, we migrate and we keep moving because we understand that. Well, we don't. Animals understand that you have to keep moving. And what was amazing 18 degrees Celsius here, which could have been Africa, will eventually be in Belgium because you've had to migrate. And so the temperature stays consistent. But as I said, humans just sort of think, okay, we'll put up a brick house, put in a log fire, and we'll stay here. And it's just not how the world works. And then we think, oh, all this shit that's happening is man-made. Well, if you look back millions of years, it's just called climate changing. And yes, I believe that local things that we do affect things locally, which eventually, if everyone started to locally do things, it will become a global thing. But changing of the climate has just been here since we were just a mosquito, a bit of bacteria in water.
But the interesting thing that you just made me think that when you discuss this thing about animals migrating, the shit, and I'm going to say it again, but the sheer sort of pig-headedness of man, we never look at animals and think how intelligent an animal is. We sort of look at an animal and think it has a limited level of intelligence.
And that we're the smartest.
We're the greatest, brilliant thing, but that's just, man's idiocy is the wrong word, but short-sightedness and pig-headedness to think that, well, actually, animals a lot of the time probably, I'd say definitely a lot smarter than we give them credit for. What do they say about it? Was it a sparrow or something has the intelligent level of, say, a toddler? So to think that an animal isn't going to have an emotional response to something or an intelligent response and plan a result, I mean, the simplest the simplest example I can ever think of is watching a dog. If you watch a dog when it's left on its own to wander off somewhere, it knows where it's going to. It has a plan. It isn't just sort of wandering around for the sake of wandering around to see what's going to happen. So
exactly. So if you look at a dolphin in the ocean, if you've seen videos of like humans in the oceans with like dolphins, and then the human comes into danger. And the dolphin knows exactly what to do. It knows how to. It recognizes the fact that you need oxygen, and it would suddenly change its pattern. You look at animals when they know things, and it's like, well, how do they know things? Well, why would you think that they wouldn't know things? Like they've all had families and cubs and given birth to offspring and shit like that, and they recognize the signs of nature. Why are we the only smartest people that can do that? And the answer is we're not.
Definitely, we're not.
Yeah, like just. Yeah,
I saw an amazing video, and you do have a moment where you think, could it be fake? But you saw this amazing video where a woman had dropped her phone in the ocean, and she obviously was thinking, I'm never going to get it back. And a dolphin literally saw it and pushed it up out of the water so she could get it back. Now,
so it dropped, and the dolphin balanced it on its nose and brought it to the surface like that.
Pretty much, it pushed it up, so she was able to get it back. Now, to me, that shows you how damn intelligent creatures are. This was just a woman on one of those sightseeing boat things that had gone around on the ocean. So, can't knock them at all. It saddens me when people don't think there's a level of intelligence to animals at all. Just have to excuse me. I'm just getting my coffee.
I put a green as well. So if you look at dogs, they always know when you're upset. They sense the change in body language, the energy. Often when dogs can see different colours. So what we see is not what they see. They will look at energy and see colour, and we can't see it. So when you're upset, they can see the different energy frequencies coming off you. And they'll look above you, for example, because of where the energy is going, and they can see things. That's why they say dogs can see spirits and ghosts. Well, it's not that spirits or ghosts are there. Mm-hmm. If you understand what a spirit is, it's the person who passed energy, vibration. Well, it's all around us, and they tune into that, and so they can see things that we can't see. So just because a dolphin can't talk and walk to Tesco's, there's a whole intelligence of what we know is intelligent is maths and English and like being smart, but there's, in terms of survival, there's multitudes of intelligence in other animals that we will never be able to understand because we're not the animals. For all we know, they can smell what's in Australia. Just like we can tune into people's thoughts from Australia. And we're never going to prove that. Like, sharks can smell blood in the ocean miles away. It's like, well, how can they smell blood? I can understand about vibration, but smelling, I thought we smell with our nose. And it's like, well, no, that's a fish. Like, there's 2 different rules, yeah, it's amazing.
But on the smelling front, it's also amazing to think that animals can smell out illness. They can smell things like cancer. I mean, that's a phenomenal thing. I know that it is quite an amazing thing to consider. And it's the fact that we are daft enough as the human race to think we're the top of the pecking order because we can do certain things. I think it's a very, very small-minded person who doesn't look at the whole bigger picture of what that can be done by everything on the planet. And it is an amazing thing if you think about it. In the great scheme, whether you're into evolution or not, to think that if you believe in evolution, if you look at the historic knowledge, we all started out as animals of some sort. We've just evolved. Well, who's to say that, animals are not going to evolve into some other form of life in the future? Who says that we're going to be the top? Who says that we are going to be the top of the pecking order? I mean, if you're going to go on to a really different tangent when it comes to sort of the pecking order and with regard to life and whatnot, where do you stand on extraterrestrials?
So if we're thinking about aliens with like big heads and big eyes like we see in films, that's purely imagination of what we would think an alien would look like. And an alien doesn't necessarily have to mean it's come from the human species. It could be another species that evolved more than us. Like, again, why is it humans have to be the top of the food chain? Why can't it be an ape came from a polar bear, which came from a dog, which came from an ape-like human to a human, but then went onwards? So extraterrestrials, if we're thinking about do they need oxygen like we do, then that's purely they would have had to come from Earth, because the Earth has created oxygen through its own form, which is how we have become alive. So if it needs oxygen, it would have had to come from Earth, because the difference of the sun with the other planets, its circumstances aren't there. Does that mean that there's another form of life on another planet which doesn't need oxygen? Well, we can't argue that, because if we're doing it based on ourselves, we need oxygen, we need heat, we need whatever. But we don't know if there's a planet millions of miles away and the rules are different. Like, we can only look at the universe based on how far out we've gone, and then we don't know like what's beyond that. So we can't make that judgment. Is it possible that humans in time could create a spaceship which could live in space? And like that film where he made potatoes because he heated up a room which made condensation on this plastic thing which created water. Do you know what about that film?
I do. I know the one you mean. It's the one with Matt Damon.
And he had water. Yeah, he had water to make the potatoes grow. So he's created something out there which was only possible down here. So if you can live up there and eat and drink, your muscles might waste because they're not doing anything physical. But the point is that you can create a habitat up there with your basic needs, water, food, oxygen, whatever, and you can live. So you can make that spaceship as big as you want. You can put it on the moon and make it as big as you want. It is possible. But obviously you need to be able to create what you need at that time: oxygen, food and water. So does it exist? No one can argue that. It's like, does God exist? No one can really argue that. You can work out the basis of why it would exist and reflect it to us. Again, why is it all about us? Why does it have to come from us? Why can't dolphins have evolved so far that they jumped out the sea and like swam to the moon because the water was so high that it spilled over the earth,
Well, the thing on the idea of like having life on other planets, it's not. I mean, they've gone and they've looked, haven't they? They've found like the smallest level of microbes on planets. They've looked at things. So to me, it's not so far fetched on these planets. I always wonder if there's the possibility that life has existed in some way and then died out, and for the amount of time we as a planet and as a species have been around, for some of these planets, we could be like a speck, we could be a dot, we could be nothing, we could be on the lowest level run evolution compared to them. I also think that if I was living on another planet, and I'm an alien, I'm seeing the complete balls up that we're making on this planet, would I want to make contact with this planet? Probably not, no.
And that's the thing, like, we don't know that there could be another sun. There could be millions of suns, fucking trillions miles away. Like, we don't know how far it goes up and how far it goes down. We're just a rock in a massive square, but you don't know how big the square is. So there could be other suns, and if there is other suns, there could be other rocks, planets near that sun where the temperatures are just like us, not so far away it's too cold, but also close enough where it's warm, creates water, and there could be life. We could be tuning into the humans on that planet, so we are the other dimension of ourselves, because all the energy is connected. No one knows anything. All you know is based on what you think you know, until you realize you don't know it.
Well, what do they say? The more you learn, the less sure you become of yourself as well.
It's true. It's so true. Like, I question everything that I've learned, and I thought I was so convinced that I was right, and I was learning nonsense. So we only work with the tools that we have, and if we've got another tool, then we'll use that. And then you realize I didn't really need a tool. I could use my hand. So everything's circumstantial.
Yeah. So I was just thinking actually on the point you made about learn. Well, we discussed about learning, obviously knowing things. Looking at the way things are now in society, do you see a need for university education in general? Putting to one side people who say you're becoming a surgeon, so a doctor, a surgeon, something where you really, really do need, you don't want just some sticky-fingered guy off the street coming in to rip your gallbladder out, because it could go understandably horribly wrong. But if it's something where you really, science, the arts, they'll say science trumps the arts, but so science, something of that nature, where you do need a degree. My question is, do you think with all the people who are getting degrees, do you see a use for it? Do you think it's still required in society?
So back in the day, if there was a job which needed a certain skill, like a plumber, then you wouldn't want a landscape gardener who's cutting grass to come and fix your pipe, only because he doesn't have the knowledge to how to fix the pipe. Yeah. Do you need someone who's been to college and done a plumbing degree? If there's someone who's out there who hasn't been to college but knows how to fix a pipe, it doesn't matter how the pipe's fixed, where you came from, just fix the pipe. But with specific jobs that require specific skills, you need some level of understanding, training, education to do it. Again, it doesn't matter where you learn it from, YouTube, your father, the university. As long as you have the skills, then the job's done. Big institutions need people with qualifications, because it's easier to filter out people who don't know what the fuck they're on about. So there's more chance someone knows what to do if they've been to university, and you trust the university has taught them all the steps, as opposed to, I learned off YouTube. You don't know what they taught on YouTube, whereas university, you'd know the certain things that you want them to have and they will have. So that was based on, if all these jobs are here, we want people who can do these jobs. Times have changed. There's now none of the jobs that were there back then, even like 10 years ago. And there's so many new jobs now. Okay. Let's just say loads of the jobs are now online. What is online? You don't need education for online. It is what it is. So therefore, you don't need to go to university if all the jobs are online. But what's happening is that people are following old patterns just because they're just following old patterns until it becomes and they haven't realized that they haven't become consciously aware that you're in an old pattern, and we've evolved. It's almost like all the animals are still here trying to find tuna fish in the pond, but all the other animals have realized there isn't, and they've already migrated to find salmon. But yet you've got half the people here trying to look for tuna in that pond, and the other smart people know that the salmon's online. So we're online making money through online monetization, and these fuckers are still going to school, going to uni, because their parents did it. So it's like there's less jobs for university qualifications, more jobs where you don't need it, but they're in an old conscious pattern of just following old times, basically, whereas the new times are here. So the answer is, imagine that 50% needed university qualifications. You're lucky if 20% need it now. Because as everything goes online, the companies don't need real people, which is why they went to university in the first place. So if they're going online, it's often because they can access more people and get more money. But you don't need qualifications in order to access more people and get more money. You need basic people who know how to market with like social media. And you don't need to learn that. You just need to be able to do it. And no, qualifications and uni is becoming old-fashioned, outdated. It usually was about, again, keeping up the institutions and who need proper qualifications, but they're losing control because the people have more control doing it themselves like this, to the point where it's going to be a waste of time, waste of money.
I mean, I think because I went to university, but the concern I really have now is for people who are going to university. Well, even for people of my age group who went to university, the concern I have is I went and you hit the nail on the head perfectly. I went because I thought it was the thing you had to do. I didn't have any real sort of game plan of what I was supposed to do. And it's basically expected of you to go to university. But I think the problem people now have is that you're sold that you go to university, everything will be absolutely hunky-dory, you'll come out and be great. Well, the situation now is the market's oversaturated. A degree now will get you, if we're really, really honest, so little when it comes to the job front. Whereas the people of like my father's generation, they go to university and it meant more. And you're right, a lot more training now. I think it's probably a lot easier now or better for people to go into a job where they're actually trained to do that job and to grow from there. Because, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what will happen with universities for the future and how it will progress, because I think it's becoming something that's less important than it once was for people.
So, obviously, going to university, you choose your topic, you choose your industry. Yeah. Eventually, the only industry really will be online, okay, and accessing people online as opposed to somebody in a local area and have clients coming in London. Your clientele in London will simply be online. So everything will become about how to create finance online, right? So all that will happen is that universities, the topics, they'll die out. For example, if nobody is being let's just say an arm surgeon for whatever reason, right? Then there's going to be no professors teaching it because no one's going to take the lesson. So there's just no point. But if there's people like wanting to know how to make money online through social media or whatever, or podcasts, how to do a podcast, these things will become the new topic. So rather than going to university and doing a science degree or whatever, teaching degree, it will be online degree or podcast degree, understanding energies and how Wi-Fi and 3G works. And then the new jobs will be like how to create 5G, 6G, 7G, 8G, right? How to make pixels more even tightly close where the quality is clearer. So the jobs will change like that. In terms of going to uni, how it is, where you have a professor teach you and you spend 50 grand, I believe that currency and everything will go down to a fair trade price. So everything will be £1. Your earphones are say 300 quid, my iPhone's 1,000 quid, but my lawnmower is 50 quid. Everything will just have no value. It'll be, do you want my lawnmower? Yeah. What can I trade for it? I'll trade my earphones. Even though it was £100, whatever, it'll just be a need. I want this carrot for this gold. It'll go back to the old days. I want this lawnmower. I'll give you my headphones. It won't be, well, hang on, my headphones are worth a lot more. Give me extra cash. That's not how it will work. Everything will just be a fair trade. And therefore, the price for university of like 40 grand, whatever, it just won't exist. It just will be, it just won't exist. It just won't cost anything. It will be, it just, as you know, the taxpayer will actually end up paying for education as a whole, which will be free. But there'll be so much money through all these, everything's online, so much money saved that it's not going to be a loss. It's just going to be education is free, like on YouTube. No one's going to go uni, and you can learn from the professor talking on YouTube in his bedroom. The same damn thing. It's so true. You could be a professor at uni, 40 grand through the government. You could be at uni. You could be in your house teaching to your students on a live 100 Skype call. He's charging his own money. Yeah. He is charging his own money. Like, say, rather than him getting his 30 grand a salary and then the university pays for his salary and all the students spend 40 grand a year, it will be, you pay me, I don't know, 5 grand a year, and I'll teach you one-on-one as well as collectively when you're ready in your own time. Pay when you want to pay. It'll be the same thing. But even then, if there's a professor on YouTube doing it for free and making money through advertising for the videos, you're not going to pay him. Yeah. But there won't be a need for anyone to, be in person.
I'd be very interested to see if your idea on like the reduction in costs would actually happen, or the reduction in payment for things. Because I think if anything like that ever happened, it would be a long, long way off, because I don't think the markets would allow that sort of thing to happen. But something that was very interesting that made me think of then is the fact that changing the way things are being done. So I know somebody who works in transport, and they work. Their job is they're very high up in it, so they're not like sort of driving cars around, but they recognise that because of the changes that are going to be happening with, say, certainly in the automotive industry, where we're seeing this massive shift that's going to be happening with cars that are, say, self-driving, electric cars, things like that, they recognise that their career is going to become non-existent, and they have to retrain to do something else because there will be no way it can continue. And there's going to have to be a massive shift across the board in education, certainly in the way in sort of like transport, the way society runs itself, because we are seeing that there's a push, aren't we now, from people to make changes? Because I think they're sort of saying the next 15 years or so they want to outlaw petrol and diesel cars. We're touching slightly on political, I know, but whether that will ever happen, as simply as they say they want it to happen, and we go to electric cars, I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see what will happen when it comes to people's careers and jobs and training in that aspect, that aspect of life.
So talking about electric cars, yes, it will be a lot healthier for the environment, and you'll be able to go on the M4, and it's just silent. So yeah, health benefits, no benefits, whatever. Just imagine living by the M4 your whole life, and you just hear,
yeah,
and all of a sudden,
silent.
So that's good stuff. But again, what comes with that is you've got cyclists on a country road, not hearing that there's cars ahead, and they all get wiped out. So again, we adapt from, say, petrol to electric. But like anything, you only address problems when it occurs. How do you address the fact that you've gone from noisy cars to silent cars to the point where you need at least some noise? So when you're crossing the road,
they have to add.
You know that someone's there. So what do you do? An automatic horn? Everyone's going to be honking. So is it a buzz? How the fuck are you supposed to hear a buzz? Like, what is it going to be? Like a bee buzzer? Again, we don't know where it's going to go, because like a trumpet sound, can you choose your own sound? Like, again, it's like pollution.
If you think bad, if you think the idea of having a load of cars engines making noises is bad, can you imagine if you could choose your own engine sound?
Literally.
the chaos.
Oh, there's a car waiting on. There's a dog. No, it's not. It's just Doris in his car.
It leads to absolute and utter chaos, but it would be interesting. You were right when you said that they've had to adapt to stop a car being completely silent, to stop people getting hit by cars. They've actually added a fake engine sound to a lot of cars.
Literally. So we've gone from having an engine to removing one to having a fake engine.
It's crazy if you look at it that way. Totally, utterly crazy.
I can't see your face. Tilt it up a little bit.
Was that any better? Sorry, I was getting coffee. So.
Okay. So at that point, there'll be the petrol stations. Just think about it, right? If we are in 15 years gonna have no electric diesel cars, there's going to be no need for petrol stations, and therefore you'd have electric booths. Now, of course, it takes you, like, say, a minute to top up your tank, right? But it may take an hour for cars to charge their car. So petrol stations as a whole will just be wiped out. What you may have is massive, massive fields full of solar panels, and they've each got their own like car park slot. Imagine like a car park of say 5,000 cars, like a stadium car park, or that is what it will be like. So people's days will shift, their times will shift, their calendars will shift, because they have to consider the amount of time they need to charge their car. And if you're going to Scotland, years ago, to get to Scotland will take you days, because you might have to go on the train, you might have to walk, you might have to whatever the fuck you have to do. But now we have a car down the motorway. So we've gone from country roads to let's build a motorway so we can get there quicker, to the point where you have to stop 5 times on that motorway for a total of 5 hours, to the point where now your day is going to take 2 days to get to Scotland when it used to only take 1. So really the only way it's going to be is, like an alternator with a car. It charges the battery as it moves. Yeah. You'd have solar panel on every single car. Every car will be made of, like, you'll have a solar panel roof, and then they'd have to find a way of converting the energy quick enough to get you the fuel. So we'll charge it up overnight at our house. Every house will have its own plug to its own car thing. So we'd be self-sufficient in energy. We'd have to have solar panels because it'll probably take too much energy from EDF to cope. So we'd have to have solar panels, solar panel car, generator in terms of, storing the energy in advance, and then having our own power thing. And then as you go up the M4, whatever, the only way it can be is unless you stop every so often. Obviously, Scotland, you might make it, but if you're continuously traveling, you might have to stop a few times. You'd have to have solar panel on the car, but it can't just be relied on solar. It'd have to be some kind of wind as well. So the engine lifts up and the wind comes through, propels the fan, as well as solar, as well as maybe kinetic. It can't just be solar. It just won't be possible, because imagine all these humans trying to get charged. Like, it's just, again, this is about adaptation and evolution. We don't know until it happens. Like the flu outburst, we knew there was going to be one, but until there is one, you don't know what to do until it happens. Like,
And my worry would be, what's going to happen to all the industries that, well, you when you mentioned petrol stations, so what happens to all the industries who provide for the petrol stations, for the people like that? They're not going to be able to turn on a dime, are they, to change what they're doing, to provide, a completely new, different sort of business. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to be a simple thing. So I think, and I like your idea on what you could do for sort of like, electric cars. I think the idea to say it can be done as quickly as 10 to 15 years is just, it's ludicrous.
Like,
we've had this idea of having electric. I mean, there are now electric cars about, but we've had this idea, haven't we, to have a system where we've got we've got electric cars. We're going to go and do this change to them. For years, this has supposed to have been on the cards, supposedly since like the 70s and 80s, and maybe even before then. It's been something that's been looked at, but there's never been this push to do it. I don't think it's going to be something that can do very easily or simply. And I'd ask the question, do these industries really want to do it so simple and easily? Because if I'm an oil and gas company and I've been at the top of my market for years and years, you're going to be really having to stick my arm up my back to get me to actually really want to do this, to change things.
Like, I believe that when you look at the goodness from it, health, global warming, what the fuck. But the reality is that you're disrupting a fucking hornet's nest. And you have no idea what happens after the hornet. Like, 20 years, it's going to be illegal to have electric, a petrol and a diesel car.
Yeah.
So you're saying that every person who's bought, say, a 70, 80 grand, £1,000 Range Rover
that hopefully works.
So like, they bought a new Range Rover now, and in 20 years' time, their Range Rover is still going to be worth, I don't know, 20k. What are you going to do? Say, but like, where the car's going to go? Like, you're going to scrap it? Right. You're going to burn it? What happens to that 20 grand? Is the government going to bail you out and write you a check? Like, what the fuck happens?
Yeah, exactly. How is it going to be done? To me, it's crackers. I can't see how it's going to work. I honestly cannot see how it's going to work.
Like, where are you going to put fucking millions of cars on the road?
Yeah.
Like, all the gypsy scrap guys are going to be like, fuck me, it's Christmas every fucking day. All this money coming in. I don't even have to buy the scrap. You're just giving it to me. Like it's just, again, it's like cryptocurrency. It's a new industry. No one has a fucking clue where it's going to go, what's going to happen. No one has a clue. With this car thing, it's too easy said than done. Like, you can't just make a billion cars disappear and then make everything electric, because then you've got to put solar panels on the roof. How much electricity do you need? Like, what happens at petrol stations? What happens to car places, mechanics, garages? Like, loads of jobs. Like, now what they're going to do? They're going to go online and learn how to bloody sell social media. Like, you have no idea. And fucking hell, Boris just makes a few bits of code and he fucks off. He'll be dead by then. Like, he changes it now. 20 years time, you deal with that shit.
Yeah.
It's like...
Well, you're right. And the problem you've got is, how do you get rid of all the cars? And the other issue you're going to have, I reckon, is the fact that, okay, so they might say, it's going to be a great idea where you can retrofit your car. The cost alone would be... So if we're looking at it just from the point of view as a single person, so the cost alone is going to be mad. I still, as I've said earlier, don't think the large conglomerates are going to embrace this.
The large what?
I think the large conglomerates, the businesses, so the people like,
Oil and gas.
Yeah, well, the oil and gas. I was trying to think of a specific company name, but I was going to say SEBA, but they don't exist anymore. They're a chemical firm. But nah, I don't think it'll work. I think
if everything goes electric, right? Saudi Arabia, Iran, all the big oil countries, right, who rely on their wealth is oil, they're going to go bust because they've got all these massive houses and hotels, which cost millions in the first place, and they can only afford it because of the millions they're getting. What happens when they're not getting their millions? How are they going to pay their rent? Like, everything will flip, every power. So all the power's going back to the civilians and the people, okay? Whether it's through not listening to government or in terms of where the power is, everything is flipping. What we're doing now is essentially BBC broadcast 50 years ago, where the only channel was BBC, and you could only sell your content to the BBC. That's the power, that's whatever. All the power by being online is now going to the people, where we don't need people in big corporations anymore and licensing and bloody rules and regulations. So again, it's the shift in life. Every lead of every animal pack has a leader, a big animal. It will always get taken down by someone within the pack who wants to be in control, or another person from outside the pack. And that's just the cycle of life. You step up, you lead. When you fight me and I lose, I step down. The next generation comes. You know, now it's oil and gas. Years ago, it was jewelry, it was diamonds, it was gold, it was frankincense and myrrh. And back then, it was the ape with the biggest coconut or the biggest banana. And then you keep going back further. You keep going back further. It was, I don't know, the farmer with the biggest cornfield. It's oil now, but years ago it was gold, it was frankincense, it was myrrh, it was carrots, it was fucking ape, you know. And it's just the evolution. Again, if you focus on something too much, you see everything. But really, if you look at everything, it's not actually that big of a deal. Like this flu thing, it could wipe out millions. But if flu wiped out millions years ago, and we've got all these flu jabs now, there's a good chance that it's not going to happen what happened years ago, because we didn't have all that stuff then. Yeah, we're all online and we're flying around the world and stuff. But
you're frozen on me a bit.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yeah. You froze slightly, so.
Yeah, so everything isn't as bad as it seems. Like when you look at the news all the time, you think, oh my God, what's coming to an end? It's not as bad as you think. It's just you can see bad in everything, but there's also billions of good.
Well, as you and I we've said throughout, it's all to do with an evolution, isn't it? It's all how things the ebbs and flows. I mean, going back to electric vehicle stuff, I am intrigued to see what will happen. I'm very dubious to see how it'll actually all pan out, if I'm honest. But you know, what do I know? I'm not the one who's running all this stuff. It's actually
fueled a lot by these global warming activists. These people, they care about the planet, but they really don't have an understanding at all, because they're all following the person before at university who felt empowered by saying, fight for freedom, you know, and they're all little sheep following each other. And they don't really understand where it all came from. They don't really understand what it is. They just feel empowered holding their sign up in Westminster, and they all follow the pattern. Like they all go to university because all their friends go to uni, and they all go clubbing, and they all have pre-drinks around each other's house. And then they leave university and they're like, what the fuck do I do now? They only went to uni because of the social side of it, the pressure. This is why a lot of these people are weak. They need people all the time because they're used to other people making decisions for them. It's not even about the education, because most people, they get a job and they change in 5 years, and they change and they change and they change. So having this one job for life is not bollocks anyway.
Well, that doesn't exist at all anymore. That's a complete...
No, again, it's like following the same pattern, like go to college, go to uni. Since when has anyone ever had the same job? Like even David Cameron went to uni, studied politics, not David Cameron, and the other one, he's now running the News of the World newspaper. Osborne. So he spent his whole life going Eton, going university, politics. He's now running a paper.
And then
what? So does he have any qualifications for the paper? No. So they didn't need to go to uni. Not really. He could have bloody been Richard Branson's brother-in-law, and he still would have got the job. So again, it's all, everything is made by man to suit man. And if you don't need man, then you don't need what man's trying to sell you.
Correct. No, I can't disagree with that one at all.
Man creates a problem, so man can find a solution, so man can profit.
Mm-hmm.
But the only profit I need is Jesus.
Coronavirus, then. Well, that's the big one that we talk about, the flu situation. Coronavirus, that's the one that's really hitting the news at the moment, isn't it? I wonder what's going to happen with that. That's going to be an interesting one.
So I'm against medicine because I believe that man has its own ability to fight its own pathogens. But if it's made by man, then yeah, we can pretty much solve it ourselves. If it's made by nature, such as the flu, then we have a choice to survive or die. Man has become smart enough that we've recognized that nature will end up killing you with this flu, for example. So therefore, if we can create this man-made thing to save a human, then you can. So do we need like flu jabs? Would people have the flu and die without them? Yeah. Does this flu jab, do our flu jabs right now, they're going to help us with this corona flu? It's a different strain. So it doesn't matter how many flu jabs you've had, how big your immune system is. If you get into contact with this coronavirus, it will destroy you just like a bacteria will take down a fucking oak tree. There's certain things that nature will always win. And this is a fine case of example. These people are dying because they've got a weak immune system.
Correct.
Not because this virus is killing more than other flus. It's just another form of fluenza. And it's different. So we're not used to it. But any flu is a new flu anyway. It's just like a different strain. So do I think it's going to be like the next flu pandemic? Probably not, because as I said, we have evolved enough where we are well equipped and we're trained. And should we be scared? I'm not particularly scared, especially you in Yorkshire, middle of nowhere. Like, you've got to find a human first in order to cough and catch it. so you're definitely fine.
Yeah, I'm out in the wilderness. So,
but yeah, no. If you were in London and somebody coughed, could you catch it? Yeah, but that's the same for any flu. Are you going to die?
Yeah.
If you've got a weak immune, more chance. But if you've got a weak immune, you're probably going to die of any flu anyway. Again, it's just over exaggerated. It is serious. You could die, but no different to cutting yourself and then getting an infected toe, and then or a tick biting you in the fields and getting Lyme disease. You've got more chance of dying from Lyme disease by a tick biting you when you're on a country walk than get the flu and dying. Again, if you didn't know about it, would you be worried? No. So worry about it when it happens.
Because what they've said is the biggest problem. I was listening to people talk about the coronavirus is the fact. Well, it's the fact that everyone, well, not everybody, but you've seen too much media panic. People are making out it'll finish them off. Well, it'll finish you off if you've got an underlying health problem or you're old or whatever. But what they've said is that they're not getting enough of an ability to sort of, because they've got to contain it. And the problem they're saying they're having is they sometimes, in a lot of countries, having a problem finding patient zero of the person who's infected people. So I don't think we're going to see this. I agree. I don't think we're going to see this massive, freakish flu pandemic that you would have had in the past that was finishing people off. But it's just a logical thing. You've got to look after yourself and try and keep reasonably healthy.
Yeah, so everyone depends on everyone else to do everything for them, and you forget you are you as well. Like,
you are responsible for yourself.
Yeah, don't rely on bloody government making vitamin C tablet. Go and eat a banana. Yeah, like, you do realize that you are here by yourself as well as government here to help you. It's not just government or you're dead. Like, get off your fat ass and do something yourself.
Very true. Oh, I like it. Very, very true, though. But that is a problem. You've seen a lack of people using common sense in life and actually working on their own accountability to deal with things, where they expect everybody else to say, well, we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you, and you'll be absolutely fine. We'll hold your hand there. It doesn't work that way. You've got to be smart enough to think, well, we'll use the coronavirus or flu as an example. You're going to be smart enough to go, yeah, I probably will wash my hands.
Hang on, you've frozen. Stop talking. Hang on, stop talking. You're frozen. Hang on. All right, carry on.
Yeah, I was saying you probably the accountability, and we use the coronavirus or the flu as an example to actually go, well, you know what? When I go out, I probably will wash my hands, or I'll take a few. When I get in, I'll take a few precautions to make sure I'm not going to be, susceptible to things, but. For the UK, it's not battered us as much as it has for other countries, but I don't know. Maybe it's all part of the fun of evolution, and we're all just gonna, as we said earlier, the peaks and the troughs of how things are gonna pan out.
Like every a field, a bird eats acorns, it shits whilst it's flying to Europe, and it lays all those seeds in the field. The field grows, loads of acorns. At one point or another bird takes a shit on a leaf, and it infects that tree, and that infects all the other trees, and then you will start to rot. So yeah, one will always take one down. Chinese, they all live so close together. Their conditions and their hygiene is very shit anyway. They all smoke, they all drink, they all gamble. Not all of them, but the point is that they live unhealthier lifestyles in those types of areas where you've got like chickens all over the place, dogs walking around shitting and farting everywhere. So yeah, we look at it like that. No wonder everyone's catching the flu like as they are. But the reality is that it's not the same for every country, every place. Yeah, London, you could catch it more, but again, people in London, you could say they're smarter, so they are healthier, and they've got good immunes anyway. So just because people are, like millions are dying in China or whatever, it's not, oh my God, can't go to London because I'm going to die. You've got to understand the circumstances. They're all in a little village with fucking birds flying everywhere. Everything's disgusting, and so it's not just China flu, everyone's dying. No, it's just like anywhere in London, everywhere in England. There's good places and bad places.
Mm-hmm.
There's everything's circumstantial. It's my new favorite word
Correct.
at the moment. Circumstantial. Yeah. It's not just this or that. There is multiple factors involved.
Yeah, and you've got to look at the bigger picture. I mean, one of the worst ways, think about it, this thing's getting through traveling. So one of the worst ways for traveling and passing on a disease is being on an airplane. God, if you think about an airplane, it's like a petri dish. It's just got recirculated air. People are in there breathing, coughing, whatever. So it is just, yeah, you're right. People have got to use the common sense and just take a few precautions rather than think, oh my God, the sky's going to fall in and we're all going to get absolutely screwed on this unless we get shot up with something that's going to boost our immune system. I don't see it personally. Oh. Use your nows.
When I go on a walk, I look at the sky and I'm like, wow, calm blue sky, birds tweeting. Life is amazing. And then it's pissing down with rain and the coronavirus. You're like, oh my fucking God, life's coming to an end. Well, it's what you focus on that is real. Life isn't coming to an end, and also life isn't hunky-dory and fantastic. It is if you're in the middle of a field looking up at the blue sky, okay? And it's not if you're at home, your friends are dying, you're looking at the news, Facebook, everyone's fucking dying. Yeah, but again, take that away, that doesn't exist. Take away laying in the middle of the field, that doesn't exist. The point is that what exists is what you're exposed to.
It's perspective. It's this perspective you take on things. You could... Yeah. The comment of the grass is greener on the other side. So you could look and say, okay, well, I'm really unlucky because I don't have, well, we'll use an example like the greatest, newest car, because we discussed a buggered up Range Rover earlier. But so say you could look at that and say, oh, well, I don't have a Range Rover. My life is so awful in it and wanting. But then you could also be the person who's living in some complete crappy field area in a village that's falling apart, who doesn't have a pot to piss in or something to eat. It's perspective, isn't it?
Exactly. And if you took away like phones and TV and then you were just in the middle of a field looking up at the sky, someone would be like, if you had like the coronavirus, they'd be like, well, what is a coronavirus?
Yeah.
Like, is that like, what is it? And so it doesn't affect his life in any way. And if he goes to London, for example, he comes back, oh, I caught the flu. Oh, unlucky. And that's the end of it. So if you're focusing all this stuff, all you're going to see is all this stuff. And everyone coughs, thinking, oh my fucking God, coronavirus. And it's like, no, you just coughed. He just fucking coughed because he ate a grape and he choked and he was coughing. Okay?
Yeah.
And so now you told your kids to stay indoors because you saw this man cough. He was choking on a fucking grape. Yeah? Come out and play, kids. Build up your immune. Eat some mud. Yeah?
Eat some mud.
Get your immune used to dying life.
Well, it's true, yeah.
Plates, we used to eat off fucking banana leaf.
Yeah, damn right we did. God, if you'd... no. You ain't wrong at all. I think it is all about life in general. Is about perspective and working out what we can do. But the problem is, you when you just said that, then it really made me chime something in my head. Where this thing of the guy who's out in the middle of nowhere doesn't know about the coronavirus, doesn't know about issues, and the problem we're now seeing in society, I think, is that with the prevalence of technology like we've got now, Facebook, Twitter, all that sort of stuff, too much comparison.
Everyone's problem becomes everyone's problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing that really gets you is people are going, oh, I don't have this. This other person has this. Think about it logically. The person who is on Facebook, the person who is on Twitter, is not presenting the real world to you, are they? They're presenting their best example of something. They are not going to say something, has gone, unless it's, well, you might get the example where somebody says something catastrophic has happened, but generally they're going to put all the pictures of when they're on holiday, all the pictures when they're out with their mates. And I think that really is buggering up the way we look at things. I'm guilty of doing it myself sometimes. I'll look at things and think, I wish I had this, that, and the other.
It's like all these girls on Tinder, right? They lift up their chin like that and they take the camera up there. So you think, oh, nice, sexy lady, thin, like great jawline. And then you go to the next photo. Oh, only the face shot. Next photo, still the face shot. Next photo. And then you realise she's a fucking whale. Okay. So we think like this really good looking lady, thin, this perspective of just their head. And then you look at other pictures and you realise that is why you don't have your body pictures, because you're really, really big. So you see this perception of beauty, natural, whatever. And the reality is that that person is bigger in size. So nothing is what it seems. People on Facebook, correct, you see this person's lovely watch. It's like not even their watch. That's a mate's watch. It's a rented watch. It's nothing is real. And that example of the Tinder thing is you see pretty girls on Facebook or Tinder, but they're big. So it's not saying like problem being fat. It's just that what you see isn't, you're missing half the picture every single time. And that's the whole of life. It's like, CEOs of companies, they have all this money, but you don't realize all the stress that they're under.
Yeah.
Or the fact that like, the family's falling apart because he's always in the office and he's spending more time in the office to get the business running. And then he loses his house. So you think, oh, CEO of the company, you're getting your nice $2,000 paycheck, going on holiday next week. This boss is like, please don't go on holiday. I need you to work because I'm fucking going under. And then you don't see that until you're fired. So I've learned nothing is real, and only what is real is what you want to believe is real. Because even if it seems real or is real, it is only real to you.
Interesting way of looking at it, yeah. And you don't know what's going on under the surface, because I can think of examples of people where you would look at their life and think they've got everything. It's absolutely perfect. They've got a well-paid job. They've got all this. They've got all that. The reality is they've had to get a well-paid job because they've got a gambling problem. They've had to get a well-paid job because they've got an alcohol problem. They've had to get a well-paid job because they've got a drugs problem. And they've got to keep all these things afloat because the wheels will come off at some point. It will go wrong at some point. So you're right. Nothing is, unfortunately, whatever, it's never ever what you quite think it is. The grass is not always greener.
It isn't.
Sometimes brown and dead.
Exactly. Like when you are grateful for what you have and you don't seek anything else, you're basically appreciating your yellowy, browny, greeny grass rather than thinking, okay, I want something else, a new girlfriend, a new TV, because I think the pixels are going to be better, or she's going to blow me off better than this one. So you think the grass is greener, but when you're there, you just shifted into the present, but in the future. So the circumstances are still, okay, this is browny, yellow, green, I want greener. There's no such thing as greener. It just is what it is. And if it's great, keep it. And if it isn't, try and find better, but it doesn't mean there's going to be better. People are searching forever for this feeling, which is within, and it's just contentment of needing nothing, but being able to have something to provide additional happiness. But you need to be able to be content with nothing, like we're just a monk in the middle of a forest. He has the whole world right there on his lap. Doesn't need anything.
And you know what'll happen now, because the way society is, the way things are, you'll get what you think you want. You will attain all the things you want. You'll have all the various accoutrements of life. And all will happen is you'll find out you want something else.
Exactly. And it's that continuous cycle of not being present, always like jumping from step to step. This is why a lot of people aren't in relationships anymore, because they always want more. They look on Tinder, they see all really big in person, and now you've lost your gym bod chick because you thought that she was prettier, that's better, and so you end up not wanting that, but you also lose what you had. So you're continuously searching for this better thing. It doesn't exist. No such thing as better, because It just like better personality, bigger in size, skinny, shit personality. There's no like compromise of this or that. You just have to be grateful for what you have. And there's so many factors, like their parents got money, they've got a country house in Spain, they've got a bigger car, but then she has diabetes. Oh, so it's like good versus bad. What's better? What's bad? And you just be constantly on this search for eliminating the issues and having more of the goods. But everyone has the same amount of issues, just in different ways. Like diabetes or a skin problem, insecure, or can't breathe from their nose, so they snore all night. So now you can't sleep with them. Like there's so many. There's no such thing as this perfect life, as you know. But when you understand it and grasp it, the grass isn't greener.
And the thing is, we're all going to end up in the same place in the long run, aren't we?
Deep in the ground, being eaten by squirrels for dinner.
Yeah.
But what will happen is, rather than the squirrel finding an acorn, they'll find a pair of silicone tits or false tooth,
I was just
or
a
metal hip replacement, or John's microchip Bluetooth earpiece, or in his brain that fucking Elon Musk put into his head, or some pig's heart which didn't corrode in the same time as a human one did. So you've got all these other organs gone. It's just pig heart, which is like still there.
What I wonder in the future, what on earth are the people who are like excavating bodies
I found
from
gold.
now?
No, it's a titanium hip.
Yeah.
Damn it.
What on earth are they gonna think when they're like opening up graves or like finding bodies and they're going, okay, this is really weird. There's like all bits of bone shaven off on this person's face, and there's these two silicone things that
like
shouldn't be there.
What's this? You have two asses. No, it's their tits, mate. It looks the same. It's just as big.
What are they going to make?
You know, like bodies in the ocean, as I said, all the bodies are probably underwater. Well, silicon will float, metal will float. So as this becomes water and we die, all the gravestones and all the boxes of when we're buried, they'll start to rot. And all the corpses and the skeletons and all the hip replacements and the silicon tits will start to float. So you'll have a new specific ocean, just floating tits and false teeth and fucking hip replacements, because and then all of a sudden that will push to the shore. And when you watch films where there's all plastic bottles at the shore, like Castaway, there's just empty bottles that have all flown there. You'll have Johnny's hip, Margaret's ass cheeks, Michael Barrymore's tooth, Michael Jackson's nose. It'll all just be in one place, and all these birds will start like pecking on it. They'll start to choke, and then like, you know what I mean? This man-made nonsense will just be there. Plastic bags, fucking everything. Like 400 kilos of cocaine that was in this person's body when the plane blew up in the sky, and she had it in her. That's just going to float and stick to one side. So now you've got bloody whole bag of heroin there next to Michael Jackson's nose. And people are like, what the fuck were humans doing back in the day? What is this?
Yeah, what is this crazy? Although, if there's all those drugs, they'll be like happy birds, won't they?
They won't need to migrate, because they'll be like, they'll feel so hot and energetic here. They won't need to migrate because they're in their energy, like they're hot and they're like pumping to go. You see a bird like shooting across the Atlantic Ocean because he's supercharged on speed. He's like, whoa! It's like, fuck, what's he on? John, wait! I'm lost! Wait for me!
Yeah.
It's like a bloody supersonic jet versus a Boeing 37. Like, just, he's off.
Yes, it's going to be a very interesting dystopian future.
Yeah, but like when we go underwater, these gravestones, they will start to come above, and all of a sudden you just have floating bodies, but not bones, because I don't know, the fish will eat them, but man-made things like hip replacements that will start to float. Like,
totally will. It totally will. There'll be all the shift in the tectonic plates, and there'll be a lot of very confused people. Whatever they've evolved to, God knows what humanity is going to evolve to, going back to our earlier conversation. Oh, man, what will it be like? Scary, I think, is the answer.
I do believe that governments will become localized, and you know how we've got like lots of countries, and we've gone from like one tribe to lots of tribes. So the Queen and the commonwealth. So lots of countries have the same style of government as us, for example. But then you have other countries and they take their own over. Eventually, all the people will be ungovernable, that you'll have local kind of state governments like America. But rather than being run by, say, the federal, it'll just be state. It'll be Yorkshire rules and regulations, Yorkshire's government. You don't need to know what's going on in bloody Bristol and America and England and London. That with their own tribe. So we're going to go from big countries to small countries where you create your own rules. So you'll have like the Nazi kind of tribe, the We Hate Black tribe, we'll have the religious tribe, we'll have the farmer tribe, we'll have the global warming tribe, the alien tribe, we'll have like, fight for fat people tribe, vegan tribe, we'll have fucking vegan cat tribe, we have like goatee beard tribe, and they'll just be all people with their own beliefs that we don't need to know about all the other beliefs and try and take them down, because we'll have our own belief system on our own Facebook group where, like, live for the beard and like, fight the vegan cat. And to the point where, again, like years ago, you'll have small tribes trying to fight other tribes where you come onto their land and they're like, do you know this wild elephant? No, he's not part of our pack. Let's chase it off. Apart from it'd be like little like Bristol versus Yorkshire, and we'll all like stand up with our phones and be like, if you dare to come into my tribe, I'm going to snap you and post you online. And then they'll be like, okay, let's it's all going to become like small and kind.
I hope I'm dead at that point if that happens. Then
I don't want kids, so it's nothing to do with me. As long as I'm happy right now, then I don't care what happens in time. But yeah, complex for our next generation of kids, so they're going to have to deal with.
Definitely. I don't know what'll happen for sort of kids in the future, what they're going to be greeted with, but I suspect when it goes all sort of weird and tribal, well, I'll probably be dust and bones at that point anyway. So.
And they probably will have wings from all the energy drinks they're drinking, so they can fly to China rather than having to wait to go on an airplane.
Yeah, caffeine will no longer have any impact on anybody because they'll be so loaded full of chemicals and all the other crap.
If they even make 5 years old, because obviously their parents will be drinking all this shit, and then when the baby's in the stomach, their baby's absorbing all that Red Bull and bloody Monster, and it's like fucking it up before it's even born, and then it has to eat bloody vegan food. It can't have a KFC, has to eat bloody lettuce and leaf like the cat, and then the cat dies, and then the kid dies, and then we all die, and then what was the point? Why did you pop me out? Why did you fuck father? I was only here for 5 years.
Yeah.
Nice and warm in there. That's freezing. Yeah. EDF can't afford to put the energy on. Bloody too many humans.
I never asked to be born.
Yeah. You horny fuck. Where are Johnny?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Shall we end it on this? Shall we end it on this high?
I think so, because I don't think I've got any other brilliant follow-up to that.
Okay, we'll stop it and we'll just have a quick chat afterwards.